They got the knowledge you crave. Expert advice. Hard-hitting insight gonna make you win. Listen up closely, let the games begin. Top pick sleepers every week I spin. The FF universe here to help you win. The fantasy football universe.
What is going on? Welcome in. Absolutely love that intro. We are the double FU, the FU times 2, the fantasy football universe. Of course, I'm joined with my guys. We got SC Romero over here. We got Mike Anthony over here. We today are going to talk about minicamp reports. We'll get into the rookies. We're going to do a little bit of vets and camp battles as well. But we're really just here to kind of break down everything at the end of June, getting ready for that big jump after the 4th of July. So tune in, hang in with us, and feel free to throw any information that you have in the comments, any questions. We're here to answer those as well. Mike, how's it going with you today, man?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. Just dropped a new episode of the Dynasty Dogs this morning. You can find that everywhere. We got actual football things happening right now, right? That's the most important part of our days, is seeing all the daily updates. And we'll have regular training camp starting here, in about a month and a half, I think it is?
Yeah.
Maybe less.
I don't even know. I am just excited, like you said, that we had 2 to 3 days of football action for every team over the last couple of weeks. SC, what's going on with you today, man?
Good, man. Doing great. Trying to get my cat from being chaos, but doing fantastic, man. As Mike said, this is the season, right? We're winding up to doing all this stuff as far as, football and what's going on around the league. So we're getting closer and closer, man. So good things are happening.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And of course, at this stage of the offseason right now, I believe it was today is Saturday. I believe it was last weekend, or even maybe at the beginning of this week, that every single NFL team concluded their mini camp. So they're finally done, which is nice. So now what we need to do is take a look at what they have done and talk about what's been going on. So let's start with this. There were some notable holdouts throughout mini camp. We had, of course, on the defensive side of the ball, which we don't need to talk about much, but we'll talk about that quickly. TJ Watt, you've got Micah Parsons as well, Jalen Ramsey, who's probably going to be traded here, I would expect in the next couple of days. And then, of course, the now infamous duo in Cincinnati. They don't have a defense, but they really don't have a defense now because I think it was first round pass rusher, Shamar Stewart, and then, of course, Trey Hendrickson, both holding out. So maybe let's start in Cincinnati and just talk about how terrible that defense is going to be. And then, someone pick what you want to talk about first.
Yeah, so this will be good for the fantasy production on the offense for the Cincinnati Bengals, because they won't be able to stop shit. The plan is probably to put up 45 and maybe give up 40 at this point. What they're doing to that Stewart kid is pretty shitty from the things that I've read. I don't know, I imagine it's all true, but they're trying to make him the first player in history to lose guaranteed money somehow with some sort of clause in their contract, which, I'm glad his agent is no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, agreed. And SC, what do you think about this offense? Because as Mike referenced, let's assume one or both of these guys misses significant practice time, if not game time, if not Hendrickson being traded or holding up the season or whatever. What can we expect from, who gets boosted on the offensive side of the football in Cincinnati?
Well, to speak on the defense without Henderson, he was a big part in their front seven, right? Shout out Scope, thanks for joining. But losing, Shamar Stewart, to a dynamic player from A&M, did great things there, was a big part of them, and them not having that is going to be huge. So when you're looking at the offense, you're definitely looking at Chase Brown, T. Higgins, of course. Gesicki could be thrown in there. And then the running game, right? They may have to kind of slow it down if their defense isn't kind of working out in their favor to not really do those big type of plays. So in reality, we could see a slight dip from Chase and T. Higgins because they're trying to just keep their defense off the field when they don't have it, right? They don't want to run it down. So they have Chase Brown there. You would even know they drafted Charles Brooks later. So I know Rich of the Dynasty Dogs was a huge Chase Brown buy. Said this is an opportunity. This really may be an opportunity for Chase Brown because, again, they don't want their defense on. If their defense can't stop A from scoring, they need to make sure they have the time and possession in their field. So they're kind of running inch by inch just to get down the field and say, hey, Chase Brown, we're going to use you as a workhorse back, or even throw in Charles Rook on 3rd and inches, things like that. And it's really going to benefit them further. It's going to be interesting to see. I do believe Cincinnati drafted Barrett Carter, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So that could be a huge thing. He was a solid rookie out at Clemson as well. So with Hendrick and Mark Stewart gone, Barrett Carter is definitely a buy for me in IDP them.
I love that.
I picked him.
Sorry, Mike, go on.
I picked him up in one of my IDP leagues because I was a big fan of him when we did the defensive player breakdowns with Nino Brown for college football nation, CFB nation, and he was so fun to watch. He's like a pit bull, and he's just always around the ball.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we like the future for Cincinnati defense, but the present for the Cincy defense, they're still going to be awful. Interesting point, though, about Chase Brown and that offense. Maybe they want to slow it down, but remember, Zach Moss is coming off of injury, probably no longer a threat, but Samaje Perine is back. He could cut into the passing game workload. We know he can block and protect the quarterback. I think he's going to be out there a lot more than we expect. And then, of course, Taj Brooks, as you mentioned, SC, could cut into Chase Brown. So we'll see how it all evens out. Either way, we all want to invest in this Cincinnati offense. Let's switch gears a little bit because we have a question from Scott. He says, does Brian Thomas have you worried with Trevor Lawrence? He averaged 5.7 targets and had 13 points per game without Lawrence. Way more targets with without Lawrence. And so I guess the question here is saying Trevor Lawrence doesn't seem to be targeting Brian Thomas as much as we would like. Now we have Travis Hunter in the mix, who by all accounts is him in minicamp, right? He is who we expect him to be. And, if all the reports line up, we also expect Travis Hunter to be out there a ton on offense. So maybe let's talk a little bit about Hunter and Thomas. And then are we concerned because Trevor Lawrence doesn't target Thomas as much as we would like? We'll start with noted Brian Thomas lover, SC.
Yeah.
Go for it. What do you got?
No, I mean, it really came down to the game script, I think, for them more so than Trevor Lawrence really targeting. Of course, he didn't do it. But when it came down the end of the season, midseason towards the end, when Brian Thomas really started showing out and doing big things, they were just playing from behind. So, I mean, the game script just fit the way it was. Travis Hunter definitely is going to impact it. I don't think we doubted that. But, I mean, they also added some running backs that are very versatile in what they can do, right? And based on Tuten and the Quinn Allen, I think a lot of people aren't talking about the Quinn Allen as well. But, of course, it's going to impact him. But even Travis Hunter, I think we're going to see a lot more of running back committee in what they're doing in the pass catching. Don't forget, Travis Etienne was a top 5, I think, back a couple years ago, because he was able to do the receiving end, do things, in the running game as well. They brought in Bhayshul Tuten, who can do that kind of stuff. People think it could be a Bucky Irvin type of thing. So Brian Thomas may see a dip, but he's still going to be the guy. I mean, when Cohen first got there, he definitely said, we're going to run the offense through Brian Thomas. But in order to do that, you do need to have playmakers. I mean, he did the same thing with Godwin and Mike Evans. And when Godwin went down, we saw more from Mike Evans as well. So I'm not too worried about it. Brian Thomas is still a great wide receiver, and he really showed it last year. Yeah, he was a downfield threat, but he was also doing things up the middle and cutting in and, finding open coverages and zone coverage and stuff like that as well. So if league mates of yours are concerned about that, buy him. If they're like, oh, Travis Hunter's going to take away all the targets, I would go 100% all over him. Yep. Brian Thomas is a monster. He came from LSU. They develop wide receivers. Go buy him if that's the worry of anybody.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Mike. I'm going to ask you this a different way. It came out, I think it was this morning, Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life. This is Ian Harditz, I believe. He ranks BTJ as wide receiver 7. Travis Hunter is wide receiver 38. De'Ami Brown is wide receiver 86. So we're not really counting him. But between these two wide receivers, does that sound about right to you here in year one? Are these backs going to eat in? Does Scott's concern here about BTJ with TLaw hold any water for you?
So, as he forgot to mention, they have 4 running backs in that room with LaQuinn Allen too, by the way. Let's not forget.
Yeah.
Because apparently he's looked pretty good from the things that I've read. To be honest, the 5.7 targets per game with Lawrence, it doesn't sound great, but in reality, if somebody could be a guy who can make it work on 5.7 targets, it would be Brian Thomas as a home run hitter kind of player as well. I do see it kind of ending up in the middle where Thomas ends up with maybe 8.5, 9 targets per game, and somewhere Travis Hunter's fitting in there with maybe 6, 5.5. Wide receiver 38 for Travis Hunter feels a little low, in my opinion. I would say, what was it, 38 you said?
Yeah, 38.
I would say somewhere wide receiver 28 to 30 sounds about right for me, especially because I do think Trevor Lawrence, this is a make or break year for him. I think they just paid him, but in reality, they need to see something. They need to see why they paid him, right? So he's going to have to distribute the ball to both these playmakers. So I do think Travis Hunter is a little bit undervalued at 38, but it's not a huge jump to like 28 to 30 though either.
Yep, I think that's a fair point. And, look, we saw what Brian Thomas was able to do. You referenced his LSU career, SC, in that, I guess it was his senior season or junior season, whatever. He played 3 years. His junior season, he was almost 1,200 yards, 17 touchdowns across from who was his running mate there? Was it Chase? No, it wasn't Chase.
No, Neighbors.
Yeah.
Neighbors.
It was Neighbors. Thanks. So yeah, obviously he played second fiddle. We don't expect him to play second fiddle to Travis Hunter, but he's able to do that and operate. And we'll see who defenses decide to cover. I don't mind Travis Hunter where he's going. I don't mind BTJ where they're going. I think we're in good shape here. We're talking about BTJ. Is he in your top 10? So we just mentioned wide receiver 7. Mike, did you answer whether wide receiver 7 for you makes sense?
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's 100% accurate.
Yep.
I think that's going to be inside the top 10.
SC, where do you have him?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of my rankings off the top. Yeah, I mean, I think he could fit as that. He's a floor for him is top 15, but I think 7, is great for him.
And I'm trying to look up my rankings now. Let's see, half PPR, wide receiver 14. Absolutely not. He's got to come up, I think. But I do have Devontae Adams over him, so I'm not so mad about that. I'll have to revisit that one. 14 does seem a little bit low, but we'll see what happens there. Let's move on to talk about 2 guys who are holding out, who were massive producers last year, largely on the back of touchdowns. We got Terry McLaurin and Jonnu Smith, both holding out of minicamp, looking for new deals. We'll start with you, Mike. Pick one of these guys. Who do you think has who's more important to their team this season, McLaurin or Jonnu, and how do you think they fare for fantasy?
It's pretty easily Terry McLaurin for me. This dude deserves to be paid, to be honest with you. I think he's been the forgotten wide receiver for so long, and he's been so solid for so long that they need to pay him now, like after what he just did last year with a very good rookie quarterback, but he was just an absolute fiend last year in the end zone. I think if they lose him and they're just depending on a Deebo Samuel to be their wide receiver 1, they could actually be in a decent amount of trouble without Terry McLaurin. So they absolutely need to pay him. And in regard to Jonnu, they still have like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle as pass catchers, Devon Chain, Highchev. I think Malik Washington is a very solid buy also for the cheap end, especially with the amount of injuries on this team year in and year out.
Nick Westbrook Akine as well.
Oh yeah, forgot about that. Former Titan great, but I think the biggest hurt piece would be Terry leaving the Washington Commanders, which I don't see happening.
Yeah, fair. SC, what do you think about these touchdowns that Mike's referencing? Because for Terry McLaurin, his entire career, he had 7 his rookie year, then 4, 5, 5, 4, then 13 last year. Jonnu Smith had a similar run out. I can't give you those numbers right now, but Jonnu also, actually, yes, I can. Jonnu Smith, his touchdown numbers were 2, 3, 3, 8, 1, 0, 3, and then 8 again last year. Touchdowns we know aren't necessarily sticky year to year. Which one of these guys do you think is the most likely to repeat what they did last season?
I mean, probably Jonnu. I mean, I get the Troy McLaurin love, and I understand he deserves to get paid, but does he? Because this was basically his breakout season. He's been very consistent in terms of fantasy football, but this was the season where he really went out and became a top 10 wide receiver. So in the sense of what the Commanders are doing, it's like, bro, you haven't done this your whole career, and then all of a sudden we get a quarterback, which is on them. Now you're doing it here, right? With breaking out like that. So I understand why they're kind of breaking back from him. But he's also a 29-year-old receiver. He's not like he's a few years younger, and that could be a big part of his, bro, we don't know if we want to invest in this type of wide receiver when we could go get someone else. They have Debo, and Debo's also has some injury histories. I think they're going to get it done. It makes sense for them to. But, I mean, they also know Jaden Daniels is a quarterback that can make people great. So, it's not really a Terry McLaurin thing. It's like we believe our quarterback can make any wide receiver look good. I mean, look what he did for you, McLaurin. He jumped you up to a top 10 person. Now you're everywhere saying, I deserve this big contract extension. But in reality, if there was Devontae Adams, give it to him 100%, because Devontae Adams, that's been his career outside of his first two. It was, year 3, he had this breakout, right? Jonnu Smith, if he gets it, I get it as well. Let's be honest, though, with that offense, if Tua's not there, the offense as a whole is in shambles. Now, maybe they have something in Quinn Ewers if Tua goes down, because they have backup issues, and we saw it last year. But with Jonnu, again, very inconsistent, and these guys are saying, hey, I had this one great season. Now pay me. And I don't know.
Yeah.
We know some people know how to spend their money. Some people throw their money around like it's crazy. And, Miami say, we're not having that, man. We don't. They need it, and they have plenty of pass catchers there too. It's more of a situation, I guess, for the Commanders to do it. I understand why they're probably not than it is for the Dolphins, just because they have players all around that can, pass catch and be valuable receivers for whoever the quarterback is.
Yeah, Mike hit it.
I just have a quick question. When you're talking about, the quarterback made Terry McLaurin, not in that exact verbiage, but the list of quarterbacks Terry McLaurin has played with and been a very solid quarterback is
Let's
insane.
name them.
Sam Howell, Carson Wentz, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Who the hell is Garrett Gilbert, Tyler Heineke, Kyle Allen, Alex Smith, who's solid, Colt McCoy, Dwayne Haskins, and Case Keenum. Like, come on, pay that man. Listen, I understand he had a big blow up here this year, and obviously the 10 touchdowns speak to that. But he was still productive with really bad quarterback play. We can't just forget all about that just because, yes, he blew up this year, but that's also a benefit of being a good wide receiver with a good quarterback. So I can't blame him for wanting to get paid after going through the dreck of quarterbacks he's been through in his life. Like, that man is owed compensation.
Yeah, but you could also look at Malik Neighbors and his quarterback in his rookie year, and he had arguably better, if not similar, seasons to McLaurin, right? So
they kind of play different positions as wide receivers, though.
Yeah, they're both your
It's
X,
a little
though.
bit different. What's that?
They're both your X receiver.
I mean, Neighbors is an X receiver, but he's a guy who can line up in the slot. He can line up pretty much everywhere. Terry McLaurin is pretty much your boundary guy. So it's a little different, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and the craziest thing about these two guys with Jonnu and McLaurin, they both relatively had the same amount of targets, 111 for Jonnu, 117 for McLaurin. Jonnu, by far, his heaviest targeted season. His previous high was 70 targets. Terry McLaurin, his second fewest targets of any season, and he made the most of it, second most receptions. Of course, as we just mentioned, most touchdowns. So he was, on fire, but I think a lot of that has to do with Jaden Daniels' skill set. He's scrambling around back there. He's buying time. Terry is as talented as ever. And you have, of course, Daniels delivering an accurate ball, which is probably the most important thing. And as Ben chimes in, yes, a Swiss Army knife, who I just paid far too much for in a auction redraft. But no one fewer dollar than CD Lamb. But we digress. We move on.
I will say real quick. I know we said Debo. If Terry McLaurin doesn't sign, the buy there is going to be Zach Ertz. I think that Kurtz is
that's a good one.
he has
I
the
love it.
resemblance there, and you can probably buy him very low just simply because of his
Mhm.
age, and it's like, oh, he's an older tight end. If Daniels likes him, though, Daniels likes him, right? So
Yeah.
Ja'Cory Brooks.
No.
Jalen Lane.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I would definitely.
We're just start throwing out the other receivers, but
I do like Ja'Cory Brooks a little bit. I mean, he
Yeah.
could be a really deep flyer. He probably is on your waiver wire somewhere.
Yeah.
And look, I got to be honest. I have heard some positive Debo news at a camp. Will he stay healthy the whole season? Who knows? How will he be utilized? Who knows? Can he still do it? Who knows? But I'll take a bet on Debo outside of Ertz over those rookie guys. But Dynasty, hey, throw him on the end of your bench. Who knows? We talked a little bit about some rookies, but let's move to an interesting situation here and talk about the Denver Broncos. We've got a lot to discuss about the Broncos, but we'll start at wide receiver before we get into the crazy running backs. We heard earlier in the offseason that Devon Vele and even to an extent, some Marvin Mims were ahead of Pat Bryant. I'm wondering how you guys are viewing the pass catchers. Let's leave the backs completely out of it. But obviously, Evan Ingram's in town. We've got Pat Bryant, we've got Vele, we've got Mims. Those are kind of the big four here in, who are not running backs in Denver. How do you view them shaking out this year? And then where, would you rank these guys in Dynasty? We'll start with SC.
So with these guys, the forgotten name there is Cortland Sutton, right?
Yeah, of course.
When people drafted or when they got Pat Bryant, there was a word that came out that Peyton said, "Oh, he reminds me of Mike Thomas," and people went crazy, right? And it's like, oh, he's so great. Pat Bryant was brought in to fill up Cortland Sutton's role, but Cortland Sutton had a role last year, right? So I don't expect big things from him year one, unless Sutton does get hurt, which he has in the past. So Sutton's definitely the guy that you want to own there. Now, then bringing in Evan Ingram brings a whole different skill set as well, because Ingram, we saw I think it was his rookie year, he came out, did really good, had a couple of down seasons, then last year had a good season as well. That's something that Sean Payton kind of used. And Payton, as we know, is kind of that mastermind in understanding how to utilize his players and not just use them for their position, if you will. He's going to use Evan Ingram as a tight end, as a possible slot threat, and use him all around the field. So your people in my order here is Cortland Sutton and Evan Ingram. And then we're going to talk about having to do with, you said Vele and Pat Bryant as well. Vele was good. He was a name that Pop brought up. I think Marvin Mims is really going to be their guy. That's the guy that's, again, Malik Davis, Swiss Army knife. Marvin Mims could really be that for them. And I think once Peyton understands and uses him around the field, we're going to see that year 3 breakout from Mims there as well. So I would say get Mims over Vele. And then Pat Bryant, again, I think you're waiting for year 2. You can buy him on the low, but in my opinion, I think he's going to be on your taxi rather than starting your squad. And Vele, I think, is just going to be start him on the right week. You're going to get burned some weeks if you try to start him every week. But if you get him on the right weeks, he's got some blowouts. So it's kind of really boom bust, probably more 70% bust and 30% boom for me for Vele on that situation.
Yeah, I love that, Mike. I'm going to force you to talk about the two guys at the top first, Evan Ingram and Cortland Sutton. SC put Sutton ahead, but I'm not sure if he meant to have Sutton ahead. I personally think Ingram gets more looks than Sutton this year. Mike, what do you think about those two guys? And then feel free to talk about the rest.
So I think Evan Ingram is the number 1 target in this offense right now, especially being the middle of the field guy, the guy that Sean Payton kind of wanted for this offense, the guy they went out and got this offseason, was their first acquisition, if I'm not mistaken. I was just on the 4th and Fantasy podcast with Honcho and Rocco, and my hot take was a hot take episode. My hot take was Evan Ingram would return to his 2023 form and be the tight end 1 overall in fantasy football, just because of the high target volume he could get in a Sean Payton offense with Bo Nix, a quarterback who they kind of were missing that position last year, obviously. And they were missing a prominent pass catcher outside of Cortland Sutton until Marvin Mims was finally, let off the leash towards the end of the season there. Because that's what kind of we've been waiting for. And that's how I'm going to go into this next bit, is I think Marvin Mims is the 3rd guy in that offense. Really good best ball player. I haven't looked at the Scott Fishbowl point scoring just yet, but he could be a really good Scott Fishbowl guy for return points and big plays. Marvin Mims was a guy I was in on since college, coming out of Oklahoma. They use him in a variety of different ways in Denver. I would really like to see him more in contested catch roles instead of just trying to burn people, because he was actually over 50% contested catch guy in college, and that was at Oklahoma. So that's nothing really to sneeze at. So I would like to see Mims more, and I think we will get it this year because that's kind of what we started to see towards the end of the season last year. And Devon Bailey, to me, is just a guy. I think, like SC said, Pat Bryant was brought in to be the Cortland Sutton replacement eventually. And I don't think we'll see Pat Bryant much this year because I kind of am starting to see a pattern with Peyton is where the rookie wide receivers kind of take a little bit of time to get their feet underneath them. So I could see Bailey getting a little bit of burn, but the top three guys for me are pretty easily Engram, Sutton, and Mims.
Yeah, and just that, Esty, 1 second, just to that point on Mims, you guys were both hyping him up over since week 11 last season. He recorded 6 touchdowns and 1, 2, 3. They had a bye week in there. So in 7 games, 6 touchdowns. It looks like 200+ yard games. He had another 4 games over 40 yards. And he had 5 or more targets in 4 of those 7 games as well. So absolutely seeing the volume. Of course, we have an Evan Engram, right? They didn't have a tight end threat last year to speak of there. So Evan Engram adds an additional element where, you're concerned about those targets potentially going to him. But SC, Mims, or anyone else from Denver?
No, I was just saying, I mean, you can't see him like my eyes, I'm holding back tears right now because Troy Franklin's still on the team right there too. I was an Oregon guy.
Oh shit.
R.I.P. R.I.P.
We haven't seen much about him, but he's on my taxis. I'm still holding out hope for him.
Yeah.
Some people hold out hope for him. That's just Oregon love I have. But Troy Franklin was a good, prominent Oregon wide receiver with Bo Nix. So I'm hoping that he can find the role and get his stuff together to be a top threat. But I'm not holding my breath for it, and I hope y'all don't hold your breath for it.
Well, let's talk about this, SC, since you referenced it. Troy Franklin crying, that's my quarterback. What do you think of his quarterback? Bo Nix, top 5 quarterback this season. Let's give me a percentage possibility that happens. We know he can run. The offense is in place. What do you think?
I think it's like 40-45%. I think he's just below.
All right.
We still have to. If we look at these rookies, we see a lot of times rookies have that sophomore slump, right? Because now teams have a full year of tape on them. Granted,
Sure.
Weapons on there, so they can definitely adjust their offense as they need. But if I'm betting on a rookie quarterback to do similar things, it's got to be Jaden Daniels. If I got to bet on one to take a digress, it's going to be Bo Nix. I mean, they also added some running backs to their backfield, so they might get more running. So that rushing upside that Knicks have may actually go down. So top 5, that's spicy. I would sell at that point if you believe he's top 5 or someone does, because that's a high price for him. I mean, you're saying he's going to, let's just think about it. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, possibly Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, of course. So that's rate 5 right there. So you're thinking Bo Nix can beat out all of them. Hey, if someone does believe that, go ahead and sell him, And I would argue Mahomes. I feel like Mahomes is on a, I'm about to do it season. This is that Super Bowl run kind of season for them where they're just like, nah, y'all got to remember who we are, right? And so top 5, again, very spicy. If you believe that, go do it. But I don't know if I'm doing it.
What's crazy, though, is in 6-point passing touchdown leagues, Bo Nix was the QB7 last year. Even with the rushing upside, the guy was just crazy. 29 touchdown passes, 37, almost 3,800 yards. And now it just keeps getting better. That defense is good, though. Let's wrap this up for you. Mike, what do you think? Bo Nix, top 5 possible or no?
No, I'm going to put that at like 20%. Just because I kind of agree with what SC said. There are players that we didn't even mention. Dak Prescott got an upgrade as well, who could get back in there.
This guy.
Yeah, so that was how this whole argument started. Ben's trying to poke me a little bit.
This
today.
guy, I love this take.
That's insane. I will not agree with that. I will absolutely not agree with that.
I love it.
I guess I got to be the McCarthy hater. But anyway, I could see Nick's kind of back to where he was last year at QB9. I think it was overall, right? QB9, maybe 12, because he rushed 94 times last year, 90 plus some odd times. I don't see that happening again, especially with the plethora of pass catchers, or the target earner in Evan Engram now. They still have Courtland Sutton, Marvin Mims. They added RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins, so that's going to take away some rushing attempts from Bo Nix. So I just don't see that upside as high anymore with the rushing. So he would have to throw again, just like you were just mentioning, those 29 touchdowns, which is obviously possible. So QB 9 through 12, I think, is more in the range of outcomes for me.
That's fair. SC, he brought up the running backs. So let's talk a little bit about them. What are you thinking in terms of Harvey? I'm going to get the exact where he stands today in Fantasy Pros ECR, but Harvey has taken a dip since the Dobbins signing. Where do you see these two kind of shaking out? And does Estime or McLaughlin or anyone else, find themselves in the mix?
So a quick thing though, because you said JJM over over Knicks, or who was it over?
It was McCarthy.
That's what it commented.
It was a hot take, yeah.
Because I get that, right? But Knicks or McCarthy was the leading guy in camp over Darnold, and where it was like McCarthy's going to start, all this kind of stuff. Then he got hurt, right? So he could get hurt again. If that's the case, Darnold came in and did phenomenal. Do you feel that same way about Sam Howell? Because Sam Howell, I feel, has better rushing upside than McCarthy. And if Sam Howell does have an arm, and now he has some wide receivers in Jefferson, Addison, Hockenson, is that the same take, or is it you believe in McCarthy and what he can do for that offense?
Where the hell did you just bring up Sam Howell from? That was an RKO out of nowhere. I did not expect a Sam Howell mention. Oh, wait, I mentioned him earlier.
With McCarthy having the injury, I feel he's a buy in this sense because he did get hurt last year, and then Sam Darnold came out of nowhere. So to me, it's a factor of the offense, not necessarily the quarterback.
100%. But McCarthy, listen, he's been an elite distributor of the football, elite game manager. And listen.
Where's the elite distributor? He threw like
we haven't. All right, distributor maybe is a poor term, but he's been able to manage the games properly. He seems to have a good head on his shoulders. But for me, it's Kevin O'Connell. It's always been Kevin O'Connell. And the Vikings believe in him enough. What was he, 12th overall last year? The Vikings believed in him enough to take him that high when they already had, I guess they didn't have their situation in place, but they wanted him and they were able to take him that high. We see what happens with normal QB seasons where Jackson Dart kind of falls as far as he did. I mean, who do you believe in the talent more, McCarthy or Dart? I don't think that's particularly close, but we're in an interesting situation here where Kevin O'Connell is just the best in the game. Mike, you got a lot to say. Hit us with it. What do you got?
No, I'm keeping that one under wraps for now. I did like Jackson Dart's film more than I liked JJ McCarthy because there really wasn't, and I'm just going off film because that's all.
There's a lot more film for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot more film, and it's all you can really compare those two right now because yes, JJ played in the NFL, he played NFL snaps, but it was one preseason game if I'm not mistaken, 1.5.
Sure.
Was it 2? Did he play 2 or was it only really 1.5?
Who?
JJ. I don't even know.
It was like
because he got hurt during one of the preseason games. But I substantially like Jackson Dart's film more. But you have a guy who got top 12 capital in one of the best situations in football with the Minnesota Vikings. So talent wise, I prefer Jackson Dart. But obviously that's not always the case. You could bet on dynasty.
Well, here's the thing to SC's point. Sam Darnold's career finishes 25, 27, 30, 29, 36, 55, 9. One of these things is not like the other one. It's Kevin O'Connell. It's, Justin Jefferson. It's Jordan Addison. It's TJ Hockenson when he's healthy. Those backs can catch. Jordan Mason is going to add an interesting element, and that offensive line is ready to go. The defense is still pretty decent. They're improving year on year, but I don't think they're great. And so I like McCarthy. Plus, that guy can run. He can run. I want him.
To dynasty is my life comment there. I'm not saying he's not their guy. My thing is he just got hurt last year, and because he got hurt, someone else took the reins because again during camp he was beating out Sam Darnold and he was gonna be their guy. but then he got hurt. Sam Darnold came in. So my thing is, what Jamie said, he sold Darnold for a 26 third. I'd easily give a 26 third for Darnold or for Howell, simply because I don't know if McCarthy's going to be able to bounce back or if he gets re-injured. Well, guess what? Who's stepping into Kevin O'Connell's system? It's Sam Howell, and that's someone that could have upside. Now, is Howell a better quarterback prospect than JJM? No. But at the same time, that offense is built for a quarterback to succeed. So that's where I would go in there and say, hey, let's take Sam Howell as an opportunity and, put him on your bench, or you have that open roster spot, go get him, because if that opportunity comes out, there you go. You may have a shot for a quarterback to come out and do some great things simply because he has to throw the ball. And at the very least, the forgotten name there is Aaron Jones, another running back. They didn't really add competition. You could say Jordan Mason is the guy or the competition. Aaron Jones had over 1,500 overall yards. He's a solid running back for them. He's part of the system. Just check down to him or pour it into a slot router down deep for Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison, and now you have a quarterback that's cooking. So, in my opinion, you can go try to get JJM, but you can probably get Sam Howell cheaper. Does Sam Howell do something great? Maybe not, but it's worth the buy, especially if you're in super flex leagues. You want those quarterbacks.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting conversation. I do still think Nick's ahead of JJ McCarthy this year, but I love the McCarthy situation. He is an ultra buy for me as well. Let's switch gears, but stay in the same division. We will answer this question, but first we will talk about DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. Mike, you heard some things about Odunze, and of course we know the injuries burden. I think Loveland has also been on the line for a couple of days. So what are we making of, what's going on in Chicago? Who are the top dogs there? And then do you think that this trade is a good idea?
So I'll answer the trade question first. I'm going Darnold and Ayuk. I do think you'll get a better situation out of Darnold this year, especially with JSN and, the corpse of Cooper Kupp, but it's still something, right? And then Ayuk, when he's healthy, is a top 15, 20 guy, right? And I think DJ Moore kind of really depends on what happens with him. What you were kind of mentioning is, Ben Johnson came out, or DJ Moore came out and said that Ben Johnson approached him about his bad body language last year on the field and stuff like that. So that's going to raise some red flags. That raises some eyebrows for me. How upset DJ Moore was last year. Doesn't mean that it transferred to this year, obviously. But now there's more mouths to feed. He still could be a little bit more disgruntled. Then you got Luther Burden, like you mentioned, banged up. I honestly think the top dog there is Rome Odunze. And that's pretty easy for me. Obviously, the T-shirt says it all, right? I think Rome Odunze has the potential to be the best wide receiver on that football team. And I love DJ Moore coming out of Maryland from Philadelphia, really good wide receiver. But the talent, the untapped talent of Rome Odunze for me is like a top 8 guy in dynasty formats if he hits that top potential. Good route runner, a guy who can just absolutely feast on the boundary on the inside. He kind of can line up everywhere. But his Rome Odunze stock in his shirt, love that. Thank you, Ben. But yeah, he's a guy who's, again, you mentioned Neighbors as a Swiss Army knife. I kind of see Roman the same kind of thing where it's not like the explosive plays. It's a Swiss Army knife where he can line up differently on the line of scrimmage, like in the slot, the boundary, the Z position. It all kind of, can be done with Rome Odunze.
SC, I'll spin this slightly differently for you. Currently in Fantasy Pros ECR, DJ Moore is wide receiver 20. Rome Odunze is wide receiver 36. Who do you like more at cost?
Odunze, 100%. Odunze was a phenomenal talent out of Washington. He was something that we didn't see a lot of last year. I know the hype is around Luther Burden. Luther Burden also has a soft tissue injury, or he had one. That's concerning for me, especially if you're thinking about a wide receiver. That's something that sometimes lingers, and it just kind of affects their movement. So Rome Odunze is definitely the buy. DJ Moore is a solid wide receiver, and we talked about McLaurin not really proving that worth until this season. DJ Moore has been solidly consistent. He's been one of the guys that's consistently getting over 1,000 yards. I think this was his breakout season too, as far as touchdowns, because he had more than 4, which he never had more than 4 in his first few seasons. So at cost though, Romero Odunze though, I think they invested in him to be the future. And I think that's gonna be what we see Ben Johnson kind of use Amon Ra type of vibes for. Odunze, he has that kind of skill set where he's lengthy, but he's also very fluid in his movement and what he could do in his routes running. So that might be the target you want as far as the receivers for Caleb Williams. As far as this trade question, Rodgers and DJ Moore, Donald and Ayuk. Gotta lean Darnold and Ayuk, man. Right, Debo's out. Ayuk's coming back from injury. He should be the guy. Reality is Kittle is the one I want in San Francisco offense, but
Yeah.
I can definitely step up. And Darnold, I just get rid of Rodgers while you can is my point here.
Yeah, for sure.
Just,
And get rid of Darnold shortly after as well.
yeah, but you can buy yourself some time based on the age, right? If
Yes,
Darnold's out,
agreed.
Just get Geno.
He's got Geno. He's got Geno already. He's good.
And
He's
to be
got
honest-
Geno and JJ McCarthy. He's all set.
Reading is hard.
So you get Darnold and Ayuk, and you should trade Darnold and Ayuk for off the top. Just thinking, you trade them for I don't even know a quarterback right now that I can think of.
Matt Stafford.
There you go, perfect. I would love that. Great
Yeah.
answer, there. Matt Stafford, right? And do something like that. Send Judy instead of Moore, but he likes more.
You want Judy or more? I think I want Judy more. It's close.
It is close. It's tough.
Because I believe in Cedric Tillman, and I think Tillman could do some things.
Hell yeah. All day, Cedric Tillman.
But
We'll see. We'll see if Flacco can get it to him.
yeah.
Listen, Flacco looked pretty good with Michael Pittman just 2 years ago, right? He was feeding the
true.
ex-boundary wide receiver, and that's the best comp for Cedric Tillman is Michael Pittman.
Hey.
Listen, you sleep on him if you want to.
2 years ago when Flacco was 46 years old. You know what I mean? Like, father time's coming one of these days,
Not on that cannon. He's always elite.
That's true.
With
That's
that
true.
trade, the purpose of that trade is we're saying get rid of Rodgers. So if that's what it takes to get rid of Rodgers,
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? If there wasn't Rodgers, say it was Geno, no, don't do it. But you want to get out of Rodgers because even if he has a great season, again, you're going to be in a boat next year where you're stuck with him and he's retiring on your team, which is great if you win. But if you don't win, it's all for nothing, right? So I would say just get rid of Rodgers at that point.
Yep. Love that. We were talking a little bit about Darnold, so let's talk more about JSN lining up everywhere in camp. SC, what are you looking at in Seattle? We got a bunch of rookie wide receivers. And then we got, as Mike referenced earlier, the corpse of Cooper Kupp out there strolling around. And then JSN. What do you expect? We also have Fant and Arroyo there at tight end. What are you expecting this, pass catching unit to shake out at? And are they hurt by Sam Darnold now in place of Geno Smith, or maybe their O-line is a little bit better than last year?
Well, they also got a new OC, right? Kubiak. So there's going to be a whole different scenario where we're going to talk about more of the running backs being part of the system more than their passing game. JSN's the guy. He was very consistent at Ohio State. He was behind some of the top wide receivers at Ohio State and was still producing. So we know even if he's not the top guy, he's going to be a great wide receiver. But if he is a top guy, he's going to be better than great. That's the type of wide receiver he can be. The corpse of Cooper Kupp, I love that saying, but at the same time, I don't think Cooper Kupp was brought in to be a top guy necessarily. He was brought in to say, hey, we have a bunch of younger guys, and you've been through the reigns of you battled through adversity of injury. You weren't necessarily a top draft pick. You've been through this kind of concept. How did you manage to be a Triple Crown winner, right? So come in here and teach these wide receivers to be something greater than what the social media may say, what the draft stock may say, what the school may say. Because he was also at a Western was it Western Washington taken from it or Eastern Washington? He was from a smaller school.
Cup, that sounds right. Eastern Washington.
Yeah. And so that's something coming in. Now, names we're not talking about. Colorado State wide receiver Torrey Horton, one of my guys. Fantastic. Great movement. People don't know about him because he was banged up last year. Year before, he had over 1,000 yards. He got hurt last year, stayed at Colorado State with his quarterback. And it would have been a great year had he not been banged up. Absolutely love Torrey Horton. The guy you want, though, as a field stretcher.
Say it. Say it, because I was going to say it.
Say his name, right? Ricky White, man. Go up.
Yes.
I absolutely love him. Fantastic at UNLV. He's a field stretcher. And I'm going to throw this comp out because I do see it in his game. DeAndre Hopkins. I absolutely love what he's
Wow.
phenomenal pass catcher. And people look at speed, it's not there. Hopkins didn't have a fast speed in the 40, but he has the hands and he could be reliable. I know they have Jake Bobo there, or things of that, but
MVS as well.
No, the corpse of MVS as well.
He's gonna start this year. I mean,
Yeah, true.
future, who knows? But he's gonna start this year.
he's gonna get you that 10% boom, right? You'll start him on a good week, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm glad to start him.
DFS baby.
Ricky White, I think, is a wide receiver you could buy on the low. Also, was he undrafted or was he a 7th round pick?
7th round.
So very cheap, very affordable. Again, stash him in your taxi if you have the extra roster spot. I go get him. He's someone I'm watching closely.
Yep. Mike, let's switch gears slightly. I mean, feel free to talk about these wide receivers, but Zach Charbonnet is getting all the love from the fantasy community. And we talked already about Clint Kubiak using these backs. What are your thoughts about Walker and Charbonnet? Walker's cheap. Go out and Walker's a buy right now because people are concerned. I think it's mostly the injuries. But I'm not buying into Charbonnet because it's always been Walker. What do you think about these guys? And if you want to talk about any of these pass catchers as well.
So I actually kind of agree that Walker is a decent buy, especially for a late versus is kind of going right at this point. The problem with that is you mentioned the injuries, and I believe he's already banged up this offseason, which is not something you really want to hear. I call him Mr. Oblique because his oblique is always injured somehow. And the thing is to be honest, if you have Ken Walker, you need to have Zach Charbonnet. You need to have that handcuff. Obviously, we preach handcuffs all the time. Zach Charbonnet is a priority handcuff, in my opinion, because when we've seen Walker go out, we've seen Charbonnet be effective. We've seen him be efficient. We've seen him be a touchdown scorer. That's the guy for me. That's just not a sneaky buy because everybody kind of knows it already, but you could get him cheaper. And you could get him because, again, that oblique is always going to rear its ugly head, and you just, break a case of emergency type guy. Now, you mentioned the wide receivers. We'll talk about JSN here real quick. Mike Duggar from The Athletic, he writes for the Seahawks, said that what he's seen from OTAs is let's have JSN line up everywhere because he's good at everything offense, which seems very wise. And that is exactly what we want because I'm sure there were a lot of people, including myself at the beginning, who were like, why are they bringing in Cooper Kupp? Why are they bringing in another slot wide receiver? Because it's, a position that JSN does super well, obviously. But I think this opens up things for JSN to be more a versatile wide receiver because I do think he can do, everything on the field. And I also think that this does create some targets for JSN because whether we think Cooper Kupp is, super great at this point, he's still going to be a guy who's going to command some targets, right? He's still a guy who's going to get open, in my opinion. And a guy you forgot to mention who's a field stretcher, is a seam beater, is Elijah Arroyo, the tight end they drafted in the 2nd round, which could absolutely open things up for both Cooper Kupp and JSN.
Love it. Love Arroyo. I don't know if Fant is out the door right away, but we'll see what happens with that. SC, maybe the tight ends or the Charbonnet Walker. Last thing on Seattle. What do you got?
Yeah, Mike, I have a question because you brought up Charbonnet. This was your guy. Charbonnet or Damian Martinez at cost?
Fuck. Sorry.
Dynasty cost or redraft cost?
This is dynasty cost. I mean,
Dynasty cost. I mean, you're getting Martinez in the 4th round of most of your rookie drafts. So at cost, it's Martinez. But wasn't there a little bit of chatter about Kenneth Walker possibly being moved? I don't think that's ever going to happen. And I think it was just like chatter, a little bit of banter back and forth. But to be honest, the best bet for your buck, if you're winning now, it's Charbonnet. But, if you've got maybe a year or two to hold out, Damian Martinez ain't that bad to have, especially in the 4th round.
Charbonnet, RB32. These are Fantasy Pros consensus rankings, 52 rankers so far for Dynasty. RB32. I'm still scrolling for Damian Martinez's ranking.
Search bar.
RB 83. So at cost, I would agree. RB 83. But Charbonnet is the darling right now. We'll see how it works out. Either way, that offensive line is atrocious. You're betting on Sam Darnold behind a bad offensive line in a questionable system with not enough weapons compared to what he was dealing with last year. We'll see. We'll see. Let's move on. We probably got two more. Maybe let's just do one more situation here, and then we'll dive into a couple rookies to close it out. Let's talk about the Jets. Look, maybe we'll get to the running backs, but let's at least start with some good news here. It looks like in minicamp that Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson, they're back to their old ways, connecting once again like they did at Ohio State. Mike, what do you think about Fields and more specifically Wilson's prospects with Fields this year and beyond for Dynasty? Do you think he's a buy, a hold, a sell? How do you think it goes this year? And then, Fields, do we think he has long-term value? I think everybody believes he has short-term value this season. He's a good bet. But what about, the future for these guys?
So shout out to my co-host of the Dynasty Dog, Rich, who every time he gets a chance to talk about a buy, he wants the bundle price of getting Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson on his teams. Because again, they have that connection from Ohio State. We've seen Justin Fields hyper target a wide receiver one. We saw him with DJ Moore. We saw him to a certain extent do it with George Pickens last year. So I definitely think it's possible that Garrett Wilson feasts this year with Justin Fields. The thing with Justin Fields is that I've been preaching to people is, yes, you could buy him now because his cost is still pretty, decent for what you can get him. The best bang for your buck, honestly, though, is, if he's doing really well fantasy-wise, but the Jets are not good, kind of like what we were seeing in Pittsburgh. They weren't as super efficient as an offense, but Justin Fields' fantasy was really good. I think the best time to sell him would be in the middle of the season when he's, quarterback 7, quarterback 5, just absolutely fantasy killing it. And then you move on from him because the price just went up a little bit. And then, you just made out. That's how you win at Dynasty, is just keep increasing your values.
Yeah. Yep. I love that. I think that's interesting. SC, also this little wrinkle, the OC of the Jets is a Ben Johnson disciple from the Lions. Of course, Aaron Glenn, the head coach, bringing him over. The thought that the offense will be sneaky. So look, Garrett Wilson, I think we agree Garrett Wilson is still, he might be a better receiver than DJ Moore, on talent, production. I think, that's maybe a different story. However, I think the real question is outside of those two guys, maybe it's the backs, maybe it's Mason Taylor. Who else do we like in this Jets offense to put up production? Who's going to be a value for us on draft day this year?
Yeah, Mason Taylor, great one because he's all around type of tight end that could do, blocking, catch the ball as well. And he's also a legacy prospect. Football's in his blood. So he's definitely someone. Granted, it's his dad's on the defensive side of the ball, but that's even better at the tight end. He's teaching, hey, this is what I'm thinking as an edge rusher. So when you're blocking, this is how you got to think as well. So it kind of benefit a little bit more. But again, he was a great prospect out of LSU and fantastic to do. So he might be the one. One we're not talking about enough is probably Malachi Corley. A guy that was very phenomenal and great production. A lot of people confidence in Deebo Samuel. If we're looking at, because you just brought up the Ben Johnson tree, if Garrett Wilson fits into that kind of slot role of what Amon-Ra was, that kind of maneuvers, which he does have that quickness to him as well, and the fluidity as Amon-Ra, then Malachi Corley is going to come in and just be their kind of hitter around. He could stretch the field as well, but he's also someone that could be moved around again, get some in and around. He's a very big kind of wide receiver that can really bulk through some guys as well. So that'll be a wide receiver I could say is a sneaky buy for you as well. The backs, I mean, of course you got to talk about Breece, man. I mean, Breece is their guy. I'm not buying into any of, I know Breece had some people going in, exactly, and with all the other running backs as well, Breece is still the guy you can touch. If you can bring him down, if you can go and get him for a cost, or lower because people are worried about him in the offense, whatever, I would say go get him. He's still a top back. I'm honestly thinking about trying to send a trade for him. I just don't I think I would have to give up Quinchon, and I don't know if I want to do that. So it's very
Yeah.
terrible for me. But I definitely think Breece is still a top 5 back. So
Yeah. Look, there's a lot of Braylon Allen hype, less so Isaiah Davis, but the multiple backs that Aaron Glenn at least came in and said, we're going to use everybody. People freak out about Breece Hall. I think it's overblown. But Braylon Allen for short yardage, for goal line, as much as people are hyping up Charbonnet, do we think that Braylon Allen is at least sneaky in the case of injury or, just additional usage from last season?
I mean, sneaky for in case of injury, the handcuff. We always talk about having the handcuff, especially at the running back position, because injuries just happen, right?
Yep.
But I'm not prioritizing him over like a Charbonnet, David Montgomery. Trying to think of other names that I could think of. He would be that in that middle tier handcuff for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Roshan.
Yeah. Although I feel like I might prioritize Braylon Allen a little bit more because I've seen Braylon do more than I think I've seen Roshan at this point.
I'd rather go try Nick Chubb or Woody Marks out of Houston than Braylon Allen.
Richard Smith.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think this offense has a lot of growing to do for sure, but a lot of these guys are young. I think the biggest issue that people have with Breece as well, you got a running quarterback. Justin Fields is going to Lamar Jackson his way as much as he can on the ground, and that means he's not checking down to the back. I think the days of Breece Hall 70 targets are probably gone as long as Fields is behind center. Can he still get 45 to 50 targets, turn that into 40-ish receptions? That's what we hope he can do if these other backs are used. We'll see. But yeah, that's the assumption. Could be, maybe should be. I don't know if he will be. Justin Fields is going to punch a lot of those in as well. What's that, SC?
Breece Hall's a big back too, though. So, I mean, I get that with Allen, but Breece is a phenomenal prospect. He was a phenomenal prospect coming in. He's lived up to that. The passing game may go down a little bit as well, but he's still a solid back. And Braylon Allen, I mean, are we forgetting who is Isaiah Davis there as well?
Yep.
They have some other running backs that have a little bit more experience. Braylon Allen's still young, so definitely worth a buy. I mean, I think he just turned
21 now.
Year, right? So he's still definitely young, but because of that, they could still try to be easing him in as well.
Yep, fair enough. We're going to close this out in a couple of minutes, but we're not going to do it without talking about the rookies and what's happening at camp. I'm going to start with my guy, Kyle Williams, developing a good rapport with Drake Maye. We have Stephon Diggs. We have Mac Hollins for some reason, Kendrick Bourne. Those are basically the same guy. We have Demario Douglas, right? We have Kayshon Boutte, who, was able to do something last season. I really like Kyle Williams. I think he's going to be a good fit in this offense. Travion Henderson kind of worries me a little bit just because I think they're going to utilize him a lot more. Efton Chisholm worries me a little bit just because we got Josh McDaniels calling the plays and we know what happens there with those option routes in the middle field. But Kyle Williams, I think, is a good bet for the long term. He's already showing out in camp. Quick thoughts on Kyle Williams, SC.
Phenomenal prospect. I think, Mike, I think you were one of the guys first on within the FFU saying we got to start watching more Kyle Williams. Phenomenal prospect.
I don't remember, but thank you.
Yeah. No, for sure, man. Diggs is great. He's out there on his yachts, doing some things we're not talking about, but he's having a good time. He's living his life, but
Pony Club, baby.
he's looking good from his recovery, right? And I think Kyle Williams. Sorry, I have a cat here, but I think Kyle Williams is someone that is a buy. I think you got to worry more about Pop Douglas than you do about Stephon Diggs, because I think Kyle Williams can definitely fit into the 2 role just as he's getting acclimated to the NFL and doing those type of things. So I would definitely go ahead and buy him because I think he could do some great things there as well. He's a solid wide receiver, does smooth cuts in his routes. He'll be productive. If Diggs is fully healthy, though, I do expect Diggs to be the one in the offense.
Yeah. Mike, where does Kyle Williams fall in the pecking order in terms of targets this season?
Fourth. Sorry.
Hunter Henry?
It would be Diggs, Hunter Henry. Mm-hmm. He'd be 3A, 3B, maybe 4s. Right. It'd be between him and Travion Henderson for me.
Yeah, agree.
Just because of, I think Travion was one of the best pass catching backs
Are you
that we've seen.
are y'all buying
Yeah.
Ramondre
No,
No.
no.
completely out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fumbling him away with the fumbles he puts on the ground. I
Speaking
will
of-
not let
wait.
you besmirch the name of Matt Collins, though. I met his family at an Eagles game. They are very
Oh,
nice
he's great.
people. We love Matt Collins around here.
Matt Collins will besmirch the name of sneaker companies, but let's
Sure.
move on.
Sure.
You mentioned fumbling. Let's talk about Bhayshul Tuten. What do we think about Tuten, Mike? Are you drafting him in redraft at the end of your drafts?
Real quick, Mike.
No.
Sorry, Matt Collins love. Last year we saw Westbrook Akine have like a stretch of 6 or 7 touchdowns, and that was fantasy productive. Like if you started him, you were well. That could be a Matt Collins type of thing because he stretches the field very well, where he could just go down the stretch of just scoring every week, and then you're like, oh, you got sell, or this is a good time to start. I just want to throw that little tidbit out there because he may not be the top wide receiver on the field, but he could definitely go out there and make some big plays for them. And, you know, in fantasy, sometimes that's what you need to win a week. So,
Yeah, we've seen him do it here and there in Buffalo, and we saw it in Atlanta once or twice. Buffalo, I think, was probably his most consistent year. It's just not the consistency we would like to really see for fantasy football. But with Bhayshul Tuten, Tuten be scooting, but I be scooting away from him in my drafts because I have not been a fan. The fumbling has been a concern. Everyone likes to talk about his pass catching. I don't see him as a pro pass catching back. He does not use his hands well, in my opinion. He's a guy I'm kind of afraid of. I don't think he's better than Tank Bigsby as a running back. And I definitely don't think he's better than ETN. So I actually liked Quinn Allen a little bit more from film than I did Bhayshul Tuten, but that might be a little spicy at this point based on draft capital. I think Quinn Allen is a little sneaky, and he's been getting a little bit of love from Jack's camp. So,
SC, what do you think about Tuten? The 4.32 40 is what everybody wants to hang their hat on with Tuten, but he's fumbling in camp again. What do you think?
When Tune came out, people started comparing him to All-Chain because of that speed, and they're like, "Oh, he's a bigger, better All-Chain." When people are trying to buy in on moving up in their drafts to trade to pick up Tuten, I was buying on the ETN with all this draft capital, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're getting running backs." I was like, "Bro, Travis Etienne is still there. Tank Bigsby is still there. Etienne had a shoulder injury all of last year. He was banged up, still playing." The year before, he was again a top 5 back. Why are we not buying into Travis Etienne, especially with Cohen there, who made Bucky great, but not to mention Rashad White still had a role as well, so he can still run 2 backs. I'm absolutely all in on ETM Bigsby. If you drafted him, because if the value's there, I'll take him, right? But I also let him slide a couple times because I'd rather have Jordan James. I'd rather have Woody Marks, even, who was a better pass catcher in my opinion. Those are running backs I think you can get better cost. The running back room is very crowded, but if I had to put my money on it, I'm taking ETN as the lead back there. And Tuten, he's nice, man, but I don't see it necessarily translating the way we want it to translate.
Sure. Tuten, 25 touchdowns at Virginia Tech, but 10 fumbles. Not what you want to see. 2 more rookies. First of all, Cam Ward, the 101. We will start with Mike because we'll start with SC on the next guy. Cam Ward, you mentioned that the beat report says he's infectious for the Titans and it permeates the team. Cam Ward is who we thought he was, yeah?
Yeah, I have been, on the train for a little while now. I think he's going to be very, very good. I don't think we see it this year. I don't think we see it right away. I don't think the pieces are there just yet. I think we see a solid season. I don't think we see anything top, 8, top 10, maybe top 16, somewhere in that for fantasy points. But the quote that you're talking about from A to Z Sports is that the authentic looseness and confidence is a big part of the it factor that the Titans are so in love with. It's really, really easy to understand the appeal of a guy if you pay attention. By all accounts, he's ahead of learning the offense and establishing himself as a leader of the team. The aura is infectious, and it's bleeding over his teammates and coaches in the best way. Those are all things I want to see from a quarterback drafted at the 101. The other things that I've seen in the OTAs is that, he's working with his wide receivers if something doesn't look right. In routes, he's like, hey, let's run this back again. Let's do this, let's do that. Those are all things. This is all the confidence in the world that you want at your quarterback position. I am all in on Cam Ward.
I love it. SC, he's got some weapons, right? He's got Calvin Ridley. We talked about the rookie wide receivers, but listen to this offensive line. Dan Moore, the left tackle from Pittsburgh, Kevin Zeitler from Detroit were added this offseason. And then you got Skoronski, Lloyd Cushenberry, who, has been better, and JC Latham at right tackle. All of a sudden, this offensive line is at least mediocre, if not better than that. Miles better than what they were last year. And you still got Pollard and Tajay back there. Chiga Conquo. I mean, this could be a sneaky fantasy team.
Yeah, I mean, I love what Mike was saying, but at the same time, I've been on record saying I don't see any of these guys in this rookie class of quarterbacks being the franchise quarterbacks. But with Cam Ward being taken as the 101, he's definitely the most likely to hit. The system, Mike, you were saying it's not there. I say it is. I mean, you have Cam Ward is someone that's going to throw the ball. He has some rushing upside, but they have some running backs that can be in a similar style of what Damian Martinez was for him at Miami. He has a wide receiver, a veteran wide receiver in Calvin Ridley that he knows he could throw down the field. Cam Ward, they're going to open the offense up a lot more with Cam because of his arm strength. Calvin Ridley's going to be that type of guy. Lockett, I completely forgot about Lockett. Tyler Lockett.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about Tyler Lockett.
They want Cam Ward to throw it, and that's what they're going to utilize. I'm buying Calvin Ridley as I can right now because he just came off a 1,000-yard season with I can't even think of who the quarterback was off the top last year. And now he has a top one that actually knows how to throw it down the ball effectively as well. The quote about him being a leader, we knew that coming in, right? Because the difference between Cam Ward and, let's say, some of our quarterbacks, he's not looking to impress. He's not going out there buying a fancy car, buying a house, or getting in media. He's coming into work. He's doing his job. He's saying, I'm here to play football. I mean, I brought this up many times. An interview with him and Shadeur asked him who gets the better second contract or the bigger second contract. And Cam Ward was like, what do you mean? He's like, who do you think gets paid more in their second contract after our first rookie contract? And Cam Ward said, man, I'll take a pay cut to get a team around me. This was him last year as not even a professional quarterback yet saying, I'm already thinking about, bro, I want to win. Like, the money's going to come regardless. I'm not trying to chase that. Shedeur Sanders, his answer to that question was, I'll get paid. I'll take the money. You know what I mean? Cam Ward has the mentality of Tom Brady in the mindset of, I want to win and I'll do what I can to make sure I have a team around me to help win and lead them down the field as well. You brought up some great wide receivers there, or their offensive line. Wide receivers we're not talking about is the rookies that they have, the trio of rookies, right? Forgot the name of Xavier Restrepo. If Restrepo did not run his 40, he would have been drafted.
I agree with that.
With the hamstring injury, had a slow 40, one of the slowest 40s in the combine and all that kind of stuff. He would have been drafted. But Cam Ward told the team after, hey, go get my guy. And they called him soon after the draft, said, hey, we want to draft you. We want you to come in and talk to us. That was Cam Ward saying. You always got to pay attention to that because when the quarterback vouches for the wide receiver and says, hey, go get there, go out there and get that for me. Cam Ward's there. It wheels up. I agree, Jesse. And then, we talk about Alec Ayumaner. Mike, I know you're not the biggest fan, but he could be something great. The one that we're not talking about I love is Kamiri DK out of Florida. I think that's going to be a type of Calvin Ridley replacement. He's a field stretcher. He knows how to run nice routes. He can find the open spots in coverage. He looked very good for Florida last year, and he was one of their touchdown guys last year as well. So in terms of rookie values, I'm buying in on Restrepo because he was undrafted. Also buying in on Kamiri DK, who I believe was the first pick on day 3 as well. So DK is going to be very nice.
I got one more for you. A guy they took in the 4th round, tight end Gunnar Helm.
Oh, yeah.
I like Gunnar Helm. I've always liked Gunnar Helm. I think he's a very nice safety blanket, kind of a tear down behind Mason Taylor, obviously, because the athletic ability of Mason Taylor is higher, but they are similar when it comes to just being the safety, the getting open or short area, getting around the first down marker. I think that's Gunnar Helm. People forget he led the team at Texas in receptions and targets last year, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a team with Isaiah Bond and Matthew Golden at the helm. So let's not forget Gunnar Helm. It's a pretty sneaky guy. We'll see.
Well, and you talk about Restrepo as someone who shouldn't have run the 40. Helm hurt himself either during the 40 or before, but he at least had the photo evidence to prove it, that he was also injured there. And if he didn't run that, he might have even gone higher than he did in the 4th round. Let's wrap it up on this. Mike, I'm going to need your help to find the Oronde Gadsden hype. While you do that, I will hype him up with his stats in 2022. 961 receptions, 975 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Junior year, it looks like he was injured or only played 2 games. And then his senior season, pretty much the same thing. 73 receptions, 934 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Oronde Gadsden is SC's guy, or at least was early in the process. Mike, what was the hype that you were talking to me about earlier?
All right, so Chargers tight end coach Andy Bischoff, no relation to Eric Bischoff, I don't think anyway, says, I know it's a huge forecast, but I mean, I was fortunate to coach Darren Waller, Bishop stated, and Darren Waller was a wide receiver in college, and we turned him into a tight end. He's got some of those traits. It's way early, but he's twitchy. He separates. He does some really good things in the pass game. And I think as he becomes more comfortable in our system in the last 4 or 5 days, I think people are beginning to see that. If I hear someone's comp to Darren Waller, I love it. I think, again, you're getting him super cheap in your rookie drafts. You're talking what, late 3rd, early 4th? Because I think there is some hype, especially because there is some hype of him going to the Chargers and the Chargers tight ends with Will Dissly. Who else is there? Is it Conklin?
Tyler Conklin, yeah.
And both of those guys are pretty injured pretty often. So I think Oronde Gadsden's a nice flyer, a guy you could stash on your taxi squad, like SC has said a couple times. I like Gadsden. He's going to be a fun watch. Let's see what they got though.
SC, what do you got?
Yeah, buddy, you love hearing that, man. Gadsden, man, I hope y'all are paying attention because I was saying earlier, Gadsden's the guy you will keep an eye on. He's a solid tight end. He knows how to block. He's a big body, and he's very aggressive as well when he's going up for the catch. He's not the most fluid tight end as far as running the routes. He's a little bit more stiff, but because of his big size and his strength, once he gets the ball, he's going to power through some guys and move the chains. So he's definitely someone to watch. I absolutely love the hype there because at Syracuse, he looked great, and he's going to be something that's going to be phenomenal, for them. Now, this season, I don't necessarily expect to blow out for him because Tyler Conklin, I think, is on a 1 year, and I think if he's healthy, that's their guy they're going to use as far as a pass-catching tight end. But Gadsden's going to see the field, especially with the way they want to run the ball with Hampton, Najee Harris there. You're going to see Gadsden on there, 6'7", 6'6" type of guy that's just going to be there as a blocker. The fact that he's fast enough to keep up with the backs down the field as well, to block on the safeties or block on the cornerbacks or linebackers, that's going to be why he sees the field. And a lot of times, I'm the Devi guy here, so when you're looking at tight ends, you're not thinking about tight ends in Devi. But what you want to watch when you're watching their film is, are they blocking? Why? Because if they're blocking, they're going to see the field a lot more at the next level. Gadsden could do that. So he's going to slowly see that field, and then they're going to say, wait, he's also going to be a pass catcher? Oh, bet. We're going to have him as a blocker and now a pass catcher too. So buy in while you can. Very, very low cost. I would go get him for sure.
He's what I wanted Bryson Nesbitt to be.
Yeah, for sure.
All I heard there is buy Amarian Hampton, because with this offensive line, Mike Williams on the outside,
Trey
Harris on the outside, QJ, you're going to be sitting on the bench, and this offensive line, line up Najee at fullback, right? And then just give it to Hampton, 25 times a game. But yeah, Gadsden is really interesting, already getting that hype. And we know Justin Herbert can sling the rock. It's just a matter of if they let him do it or not. So absolutely love that buy. That's about it for the show. Mike, any final words, rookies, camp, otherwise? What do you got?
I don't think there's anyone else that I could think of off the top of my head in regards to rookies right now. Anyway, can't get on Cam Ward. Don't listen to SC on that last part where he said he doesn't think he's a franchise quarterback. He is the franchise, baby. That's the difference. He's not the franchise quarterback. He is the franchise.
Fair.
SC, final words.
Not go buy your Ricky White shares. I threw out the D Hop con. Go buy your Ricky White shares. The wide receiver room, as people say, it might be locked with JSN and Cup. It's very much open. JSN's there, but it's very much open as who's going to be their slot in their wide receiver too. Go buy in on Ricky White.
Love that. Absolutely. So thank you very much for joining us. We are the Fantasy Football Universe. We are here most Saturdays right now, but certainly starting in early to mid-July, we'll be here every single Saturday now and throughout the season with roundtables just like this to answer your questions. So you can throw them in the chat like people did today. We'll have a topic we'll discuss, and we'll keep it kind of informal just to kind of get all the information to you as needed. Of course, Mike has his Dynasty Dog show, so he does that typically Fridays or Saturdays. He drops that. SC has the Debbie Planet, which is Wednesdays.
Yes, sir.
Is that right? Yep. And then I do Adjust the Ranks, which is all over the map, but we have some Scott Fishbowl drafts coming to you very soon. So be on the lookout for all of that. Be on the lookout for all of us. We are here every single day for you. So for Mike, for SC, I am Jeremy, and we will see you next time.